All right, when we factor trinomials, I like to do what's called the backwards FOIL. So if you remember, if you're foiling, let's say x plus 2 and x plus 3, you go first times first x squared, and then outer x times 3 is a 3x, and then inner is the 2x, and then last is the 2 times 3 is a 6, right? So first, outer, inner, and last. So when I go backwards, so let's say if I was doing this backwards, I just say, well, I'm going to say from there and there, from the x squared, that comes from my FOIL, so I know it's got to be factors of x squared. And then I look at the 6, my last one, right, the 6 right here, and I say, well, factors are 6, so it's either got to be a positive 1 times a positive 6 or a positive 2 times a positive 3. You try each one of those until you find which one it is. And you're like, oh, it's this one right here, x plus 2, x plus 3. So that's how I like to do trinomial factorization. Let me erase this. Let me do it with x squared plus 13x plus 36. So I say, okay, what are factors of x squared? And I say, well, it's got to be x and x. And now I look at the 36. I say it's positive 36. So what are factors of 36? Positive 1, positive 36. Or they could be a negative 1 and a negative 36. It could be 2 and 18. It could be 4 and 9, right? Again, positive, positive, or negative, negative. And if you notice, when I FOIL it back, they got to add up to the 13 in the middle. So what I'm going to do is, well, let's say I get it wrong. Let's say I try 2 and 18. Then I just go ahead and I say, is that it? Well, let's FOIL it and see. No, that's a 20x in the middle, not a 13. So I'm not going to do 2 and 18. I'm going to try 4 and 9. So I plug in a 4, plug in a 9. I check it to make sure there's my 13x in the middle. And I have it. So the factorization is x plus 4, x plus 9. Let's do this next one down here. X squared plus 17x plus 60. So I'm like, well, it's got to be x and x. And then I'm trying factors of 60. So it's going to be 1 and 60. It could be a negative 1 and a negative 60. Also multiply to give me a positive 60. 2 and 30. 3 and 20. 4 and 15. 5 and 12. And so on, right? And well, and if I go with those, I say, well, which one of those, since this is a positive, it's got to be a positive, positive, or a negative, negative. Well, if it's positive, positive, they got to sum up to 17. So I'm going to pick the factors that sum up to 17. So let's try 5 and 12. And then I check it. X times x, 12 times x, 5 times x, 5 times 12. There's our 17x plus 60. So x plus 5, x plus 12. Let's do some more here. X squared plus 11x plus 30. Factors of 30. So I could go positive 1, positive 30, negative 1, negative 30, 2, 15, negative 2, negative 15, 5 and 3 and 10, 5 and 6, and so on. And you guys say, which one is it? So 5 and 6 it is. Let's check it. Positive 5, positive 6. And then you check it. There's the x squared plus 11x plus 30. All right, let's do this one. Now we got x squared minus 13x plus 42. Well, looking at the x squared, I know it's got to be x and x. Now I'm looking at factors of 42. So 1 and 42. Now, it's got to be a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative. And when the middle number is a negative, that means their difference is 13. So 1 and 42, I could do 2 and 21, or -2, -21. I could do 3 and 14. -3, -14. I could do what, 6 and 7. And so let's say we try 6 and 7. Let's try 6 and 7. If you notice when you check that, I get a positive 13x in the middle. Well, it's negative 13x in the middle. So I'm like, that's not it. So instead of positive, positive, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go negative, negative. So let's erase all this. And I say, well, let's try -6 and -7. And now let's test it. X squared minus 7x minus 6x plus 42, -6 times -7. And there it is. So what would this next one factor into? X squared minus 25x plus 100. Well, that ends up being x minus 5 times x minus 20. Make sure you flow it back and check that. Now let's do a negative c term, meaning the 42 there at the end is a negative. So what would this, how does this change things? Well, I still look at the first term, x and x. Now I'm looking at -42. Factors of -42. I could have a -6 times a +7. I could have a 6 times a -7. I could have a 1 and a 42, or a -1. 1 and a negative, or negative and a positive. And again, I'm listing all these 221. One's positive, one's negative, and so on. Let's see, 4. 13, and I think I listed them all there. Okay. So if I take a look at this one, and I say, well, if I try all these, so let's say I try 6 and 7. That's not it. I got a -x. So 6 and 7's out. Let's say I tried -6 plus 7. That doesn't work either. So I say, okay, those are out. So now let's try, go to the next pair. 1 and 42. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Those are out. Try 2, 21. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Try the 4, 13. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. And I should say, oh, 3 and 14. Good grief, I didn't put one more on here. What was the other? 3 and 14. That's my last one I gotta try. X minus 3, x plus 14. This gives me positive 11x in the middle. Ooh, I'm close, but I need a negative 11x, not a positive. So I just got to switch my signs. So instead of negative, I make that a positive and this one a negative. And that'll work for us. So let's go ahead and do that. So this ends up being plus 3 minus 14. And there it is. And by the way, had this one not worked, then I would have just said prime. If does not factor, you just say it's prime. Right? But that's not the case here. This one actually does factor, luckily. Well, let's keep going here. How about x squared minus 10x minus 24? So I'm looking for factors of 24. Now it's a negative 24, so it's got to be 1 and negative. Oops, this is negative 24. So 1 and, good grief, I'm making a mess here. So I could do negative 1, positive 24, 1 and negative 24, 2, negative 12, negative 2 and 12, 3, negative 8, negative 3 and 8, 4, negative 6, negative 4 and 6. And since it's negative, one's positive, one's negative, negative 24, and their difference has to be negative 10. So I'm going to pick, it's got to be 2 and 12 then. So let's go ahead and try plus 2 minus 12. I check that. Oh, there it is. All right. X squared minus x minus 72. You guys go ahead and try that one. Minus 9 and plus 8 is what works on this one. Make sure you're checking those. All right, one more before we go into some other scenarios. So x squared minus 7x minus 27. Notice if you list all the factors of 27, right? None of these will have a difference of 7. So when you try them all, that doesn't work. This one doesn't work, right? You go through all of them and you're like, gosh, none of them work. So this one ends up being prime. This one is considered prime. All right, let's go to some other scenarios. So what if your first term, instead of just being x squared, is 6x squared? So now when I look at that, I'm like, well, gosh, that gives me some other scenarios. I could either do 3x and 2x with factors, and then I'm doing factors of 20, right? Or I could do 6x and 1x, and then factors of 20. So let's go ahead and let's go with the 3x and the 2x, and let's list factors of 20. Now it's positive 20. So it's either positive 4, positive 5, or I could do 2, 10, or I could do 1 and 20. But it's got to be positive, positive, or negative, negative. Well, since they sum up to positive 23, I'm going to pick positive, positive. And let's see if this works. 6x squared, 15x, 8x, 20. There's our 20. Hey, I got lucky on the first one. So 3x plus 4, 2x plus 5. I don't even have to worry about trying any other factors of 4 and 5, right? But if that had not worked, then I would have been like, all right, let me do 2 and 10 or whatever, and I've gone to the next one. And then the other scenarios with, besides 2 and 10, 1, 20. Anyways, I'd run through them. And then after I do that, exhaust all those, then I'd try the 6x and 1x. But again, it doesn't work. This is the one we had. We got it on the first one. Let's do this next one. 2x squared, so I know it can only be 2x and a 1x. I don't have another option for that. Now I'm looking at factors of 35. So 1 and 35. Or it could be a negative 1 and a negative 35. And notice that they sum up to a negative 19. So I'm going to use negatives on this. 5 and 7 are also factors. Or negative 5 and negative 7. Well, I'm going to go with, let's try 5 and 7. Let's say it's plus and a plus, and let's check that. Now, I did not get it, but I got really close. I got a positive 19x in the middle, not a negative 19. So instead of plus 5 plus 7, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, oh, that's got to be a negative and a negative. So let's go ahead and change that. And let's try it again. And let's check it. Sure enough, there it is. there's our factorization. All right, why don't you guys try this one? 15x squared minus 11x plus 2. I tried this a few times, but it'll end up being 5x minus 2, 3x minus 1. Let's keep going here. 5x squared. So I know it's got to be 5x and 1x. Those are my only options. And then factors of 9. So let's say and it's a negative 9. So positive 1, negative 9. Let's try that. 5x squared minus 45, 45x plus x minus 9. Definitely not 12x in the middle. So I'm like, well, let's try 9 and 1 instead. How about 9 and 1? I'm like, nope, that's a 4x in the middle, not 12x in the middle. So let's forget 9 and 1. I'm done with those. How about 3 and 3? Remember, one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. So 5x squared minus 15x plus 3x minus 9. Now, it's not a positive 12x in the middle, but it's a negative 12x. I'm really close. So I'm going to say, oh, that's got to be a negative. That's got to be the positive because I'm so close. So minus 3 plus 3, and then check it. There's your 5x squared plus 12x minus 9. So there it is, factored, right? Keep going with this one. 6x squared minus x minus 12. So you could go 3x with 2x. And by the way, it does make a difference if you have 1 or 12 or 12 and 1 and so on. And then the other options, I could also do 6x and 1x, right? But let's go with the 3x and the 2x. And let's go with factors of 12. Let's go positive 2 minus 6. Let's see if this works. 6x squared minus 18x plus 4x minus 12. 6x squared minus 14x minus 12. That's not it. Even if I switch the 6 and the 2 around, that's not going to give it to me. So let's forget about 2 and 6. How about, let's do 3 and 4. 6x squared minus 12x plus 6x minus 12. I'm close, but I got negative, well, actually, I'm not very close. I got negative 6x in the middle, but I did not try 4 and 3. Let's go the other way around. Plus 4 minus 3. Plus 4 minus 3. Let's check that. Hey, there's the negative 1x in the middle. That's it. 3x plus 4, 2x minus 3, and I stop right there. Notice on this one, the nice thing about each of these, I would take a 3 out first before I did anything. And then that makes this much easier to factor. Now I'm factoring x squared plus 8x minus 33. So it's got to be 3 and 11 and minus 3 plus 11. Go ahead and check x minus 3x plus 11, and sure enough, that works for you on that one. Negative 5x squared plus 12x minus 9. I would take a negative out first before I factored this. I'll change those signs. And then I would see if this will factor for me. So I got 5x, 1x. Now I'm factors of 9. Let me try 3 and 3, but it's negative 9. So one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. Let me go ahead and foil this, and let's see if that works. Yep, I got a negative 12x in the middle. That's it right there. So I can go ahead and circle that. Now before you do this, well, I'll have you guys try that. Sure you check yourself, your factorizations on those two. On this one here, I would take a negative out front first, and then I would factor that. So it's got to be 3x and x. I have two factors of 8. Let's see, this one will be 4 and 2, but one's got to be positive, one's got to be negative. I think that's it. Let me double check that. 3x squared minus 6x plus 4x minus 8. Yeah, that's the negative 2x in the middle. So sure enough, that's it. And finally, let's do this last one. 6x squared plus 13x minus 2. So I try 6x and x. I try 1, negative 2. That doesn't work. Try that. That doesn't work. And I'm done with factors of 2. So let me go 3x, 2x, and let me go 1 and 2. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. Oh, by the way, I do 2 and 1 on those two, and that still didn't work. That doesn't work. Oops. I think I tried them all, so I'm like, stupid thing doesn't work. Tried every scenario. Prime. And hope that helps you out. See you guys next time.